Hello and welcome to another standard video. Today we're going to combo people out with Tony Stark, or more precisely with the Invincible Iron Man, as we can immediately cast the 6 mana backside of the card, a 5/5 with flying and haste, saying at the beginning of combat on our turn we may put an artifact card from our hand onto the battlefield. If it's an equipment, we can immediately attach it to Iron Man as well, and we will be making use of that ability thanks to Genji Glove, a 5 mana equipment normally that costs 3 to equip, giving the equipped creature double strike, and then when it attacks, if it's the first combat phase, we get to untap that creature, and then afterwards we get an additional combat phase. So now we get to put the Genji Glove into play for free and immediately attach it to Iron Man, and then a 5-powered double striker that gets 2 attack steps is exactly 20 damage to win the game on the spot. So if we have 6 mana and both combo pieces in hand, we could potentially just win the game. Occasionally we can also play Tony Stark as a 2-drop first, but this is more of a control deck that wants to surprise the opponent with the Invincible Iron Man, so we're rarely going to cast the 2 mana side, although it can be used to maybe dig for some of our artifacts, including the Genji Glove itself. So then taking a look at the rest of the deck, it's a pretty typical blue-red control deck. We've got some pretty nice answers at 1 mana with Floodmaw as a bounce spell and Burst Lightning. Also have a bit of graveyard hate with Soul Guide Lantern, also an artifact we can maybe find with Tony Stark. And then at 2 mana, I'm a big fan of the Iron Crag in this deck, not only to ramp us into 6 mana a little sooner, but we can actually transform it into the Everflame if our legendary creature enters. So in the late game, let's say the opponent maybe gained a bit of life and has more than 20 life, now we could play Iron Man, equip Genji Glove for free, and if we have 3 leftover mana, we can now equip a transformed Everflame, giving +3/+3, so now we've got an 8/8 double strike that can attack twice, which is well over 20 damage. In fact, it's 32 damage total, so that can also be worth going for. And then we've got some other removal spells, even some sweepers. Pyroclasm can deal 2 to every creature. We also have the new Avengers Disassembled, dealing 3 and also blowing up a land. And the Ill-Timed Explosion can draw 2 if we're up against a control deck, or we can draw 2 and then discard and deal some damage to have yet another sweeper. Maybe we drew an extra copy of Genji Glove we don't need, then this is good for 5 damage as well. And then we've got some more spot removal with Seer dealing 4 damage. Nice answer to something like an Ouroboros after it picked up an extra +1/+1 counter, or against a landfall decks we can take out an Ice Still Explorer or Harmonizer. Then Prismari Charm is either a bounce spell or a card draw spell usually, so it can also dig for the combo or offer a bit more interaction where needed. And then I'm also a big fan of the Tablet of Discovery. In any red control deck, can make extra mana, even provide some card advantage when it enters, and there's plenty of spells in this deck we can cast with the 1 or 2 mana that the tablet provides, even if we tap out for it on turn 3. And then Stock Up is also perfect in any control deck looking to assemble some 2-card combos, so that can also help find Tony Stark and Genji Glove more reliably. And then the Critique is another burn spell that can also maybe finish off an opponent that gained a bit of life, so the combo for 20 damage plus a Critique can then hopefully win the game, even if they answered Iron Man once we got our 20 damage in. But draw and discard is also useful for kind of smoothing out our draws. Maybe we don't need some of the sweepers in certain matchups, then we can get rid of those as well. And then the mana base also has 2 copies of Mistrise Village. If we're afraid of counter spells, we can maybe wait a bit longer to play an uncounterable Iron Man and still combo people out. And then plenty of basics and blue-red dual lands for additional mana fixing. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play. We have a reasonable control hand. Need to hit a few more land drops, but we've got both colors. This type of hand is a reason why I prefer Mistrise Village over Cavern of Souls, even though Cavern could maybe let us play an uncounterable Tony on turn 5 or 6. With the Mistrise we have to wait an extra turn at least. Okay, so against the Lesson deck, yeah, I can just play a Lantern, exile their Lesson, and likely sacrifice it, but can also keep it around. Because if we can keep their graveyard empty, then without Combustion Technique, they don't have any great instant speed answer to a 5/5 creature. I kicked Firebending Lesson, but they also need to know to keep up a bunch of mana. So it is the Jeskai build with Jeskai Revelation. Maybe a Land Destruction build. Could let them destroy this and then get a basic in return. I guess I don't hate that. Sure. The downside is our opponent also got to draw a card in the process. But I'll take the free ramp. So now I get to Iron Crag into stock up. And then find Tony Stark. Do we want another Prismari Charm or just a land? It might be the land since we already have some card draw. This way if I draw Genji Glove I could technically win the game next turn. So possible they also have Fin Fang Foom plus the Jeskai Revelation, which is a powerful combo as we know. But yeah, still playing the lessons. Okay, so can just Explosion to draw 2. And then end of turn Prismari Charm. And yeah, opponent's got Fin Fang Foom to combo with some of their land destruction spells. Still gonna Charm. Can Seer plus Burst Lightning, and there's the Genji Glove, perfect. So I'll be threatening lethal. Of course our opponent can jump with Fin to soak up one attack, but yeah, this still seems great. And then Critique afterwards can maybe burn them out. Can also transform Iron Crag if I wanted to, although I don't think it's necessary in this spot since I don't have the mana to equip Everflame. But it is certainly a powerful option if your opponent maybe gains some life to get a bit more damage out of it. So our opponent is going to take 10, and now they'll have to jump. So no doubling of their land destruction. And yeah, we'll see if they can answer a 5-5. Next turn I can burn them for another 5 with a Critique, and then Burst Lightning gets us close to lethal. So might want to wait a bit longer on the Critique. But this is all assuming they have an answer to the Iron Man, which they may not. Tablet goes digging. They could have another Price of Freedom to just destroy an artifact. Although is it non-creature artifact? No, it's just any artifact. Alright, they actually had it. Sure, so then I do get an extra land, which then sets up the Critique a bit better. So the burn plan is certainly live. So then I think it's this turn Lantern, kick Burst Lightning, and then next turn we can try and go for the Critique. Just gotta make sure we don't get owned by a counter spell, so we can also use a Mistrise Village. Opponent's got another Fin. And they're going after my Mistrise Village. Alright, so that's fine. We've got more basics we can search. So don't think I need to use the ability, can just float a mana. Make another mana. Finn will also take 6. So then we can also finish it off with a Seer if we'd like. Or never mind, of course our opponent didn't have to choose the first mode, only going for the land destruction. But yeah, that being said, this is a decent opportunity to Critique, or we can just Burst Lightning with Kicker. And then next turn Critique for the win. They don't seem to have any counter spells in hands. There's another Burst Lightning, but yeah, I don't think we'll need it. Critique for 6. Can even play around Spell Pierce, perhaps. So yeah, we had the combo. Opponents did have a flying blocker to get in the way, but we still got 10 damage out of it. Opponent was forced to jump, and that's why we have the Critique and the other burn spells to maybe get the game over with. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a decent control hand. Turn 2 removal. Got a couple sweepers and some card draw. Let's see what we're up against. Fabled Passage, so it could be a landfall. Alright, we've got a Seer and a Prismari Charm at the ready. And we're now digging for our combo pieces. Possible the opponent can present some reach creatures with a Sapling Nursery, which could get in the way of Iron Man. So they are maybe on the green-white build, which will also have Erode, which could also answer Iron Man at instant speed, assuming they keep up a white mana. For now, Badger Mole Cub. Yeah, I think I prefer searing it, even though 4 damage is a convenient way to deal with an Ice Steel Explorer or Harmonizer, so maybe I should keep it. And then for now just Prismari Charm draw, even though I wanted to tap out for stock up. Alright, these are both fine as well, so maybe take both. And then I can Pyroclasm, keep up Burst Lightning for now. Just a fine 1-for-1 answer to the Cub. But this way I keep Seer to answer an Ice Steel or Harmonizer. Another Cub, we can Burst Lightning. But they can Earthbend onto the Fabled Passage if they'd like. So that's a pretty cool synergy. I do want to Burst Lightning before this resolves, because if they sack it now, they would first... I guess, let's see. Yeah, they first get the Fabled Passage back and then they search, so the land they search for will actually enter untapped. So if they had a protection spell, they could have still cast it. So this is a good window for stock up. Find Iron Man, and then Floodmaw versus a land. Maybe take the land now, so I don't have to worry about them later. And next turn we can Explosion at the very least. And then just looking for Genji Glove. Alright, Badger Mole number 3. So this would have been pretty devastating if we didn't have any removal, but yeah, they still get value out of the Fabled Passage. Opponent's actually attacking now. No, reconsiders. Alright, they will attack for 1. So they might still have an Erode in hand that they're planning on using on their own card. But yeah, let's Explosion, maybe discarding a 2-drop. So I could discard Pyroclasm, so I don't need to cast anything. Sure. So then discard Pyroclasm, and then Avengers versus Burst Lightning. I think I keep the Burst Lightning in hand as something I can keep available. So my 4-mana sweeper, discarding a pair of sweepers to deal 3 damage here. I am out of card draw, so that's the concern now. If we don't find Genji Glove, our opponent can slowly take over. Bristly Bill, I still maybe get a chance to burst. Unless they have a land, and then, yeah, they can still use Fabled Passage at instant speed. So maybe a Kick Burst Lightning can still answer it. And an Earthbender Ascension, so yeah, now 4 damage is not going to be enough. Can of course play both removal spells, but they could easily have an Ice Steel Explorer left, and then we're still in trouble. Yeah, I think we go with a stock up here. Find Floodmaw and a land. So then Bouncing Bill is probably the better solution for now. Do I wait? I guess I do. And they could double the number of counters by activating Bill, then I'll have a response. Alright, opponent goes for Harmonizer. So this is where things can get scary. And a Chocobo. So presumably they have some lands left, and they're going to be targeting Bill here. Can burst lightning the Chocobo as well. Could have seared the Harmonizer. But yeah, I'll wait for them to resolve their triggers. Opponent's going for the throats. And Bill attacks. We'll bounce it. Could sear the Harmonizer now. Could burst lightning the Chocobo now. A lot of options. I think I will sear now. Harmonizer only doubles power, so I guess never mind. With the Ascension, they can still get this to 5 toughness. But now they had to use a fetch land at least. Critique the draw, so I can deal with the Chocobo. This could also be a matchup where it's fine to play Tony, since we might get a chance to activate it. But yeah, I think I've committed now to holding it. Still don't know if they have an Erode in hand. So opponent hardcasts Harmonizer. Plays Bill again. And they've got a land left. So counter on the forests. Could try and lightning it, but I'll let that one slide. So that's gonna hit for 8. Yeah, if they erode their own creature, they could try and go for lethal. But now I can just burst lightning Bill, and then they would not get to search up a land. Or I could deal with a Harmonizer, but then I would have to use Prismari Charm. I think we keep this to try and find our missing combo piece. So then I just burst lightning Bill. So they had an Erode in hand all along, so they could have also stopped my combo. So yeah, I can still potentially win here if we find Genji Glove. I did not, but a stock up can still maybe keep me alive. Finds another stock up. So I'm facing at least 8 next turn. Yeah, I guess I'll still tablet. Can just play Tony Stark at this point, and at the very least I can jump with it. Opponent drew a Liner Elf, so one of their weaker draws. So I can take 8. So then now, maybe start with the tablet. Then I can still stock up. Although then I'm gonna be a mana short, even if I have a land to transform Tony to win. If I stock up Find Glove and a land, I can just win now, so that's maybe the play. Glove and a land, and I'm gonna fall to 1 life here to do this. And smash. Could have also put a tablet in play with Iron Man's ability, to be fair. So we had a few options. But winning seems good. So yeah, maybe slight missequence on the Seer. Should have waited to play around the Ascension, or maybe cast a Seer before they got the extra counters on Ascension. Not sure if that was possible. But yeah, glad it worked out. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with not the most exciting hands. Couple sweepers. Do have some card draw here with Lantern and to a lesser extent Tablet. Turn 1 Swamp, there's a Genji Glove. Yeah, could already play the Lantern. So what is our opponent up to? Just mono black with a Deep Cavern Bat, that's fine. Avengers Disassembled can take care of it. Would rather wait on the tablet so we can maybe play whatever we mill, especially a land, although I guess next turn we could have already done that. Alright, draw land. I can wait on Avengers Disassembled, although the opponent gaining one could actually be weirdly annoying if our combo only deals 20 damage. And then, do I destroy the swamp? Maybe I shouldn't, because then I'm thinning out their deck for them. And I don't think I'm going to be running them out of swamps, judging from this opening. Can wait another turn on Lantern. Opponent does have the Slasher, so that's scary if it hits us. But I can now exile it with a Lantern so it doesn't come back. So I'll still go tablets, and then I can Avengers Disassemble at the very least. Pyroclasm's not quite good enough. So Avengers Disassembled, do I have to exile the Slasher is the question. This game might go for a while, in which case Slasher coming back is relevant. But maybe I need the extra card draw. Problem is my hand isn't looking all that good right now. We're not gonna win the late game. They know about Genji Gloves, so they could be keeping up instant speed removal if they suspect a combo. So I don't think I will use Lantern to exile the Slasher, because we can do it in response to the trigger here. So I'm just gonna keep it to draw a card and hope for the best. Could technically win next turn if we draw Iron Man. Bloodletter can get in the way, but it would have to chump. And there's a stock up and a critique. So I can critique for 4 the Bloodletter. Seems like a safe starting point. And then discard maybe the Explosion. Because if I keep stock up and cast it next turn, I could still draw land Iron Man and set up the combo. Opponent with a Tragedy Feaster, that's fine. And another Explosion. So we want to start with stock up. And yeah, Tony Stark plus a land, so that's the combo. With only 1 mana, they're not going to have any relevant interaction. Can also transform Ironcrag for what it's worth, although I'm not going to have the mana to equip it. But it does represent a lot of extra damage here on our double striker that gets to attack twice. So yeah, got rewarded for not answering the Slasher and digging a bit deeper into the deck. But yeah, could have also worked out poorly if we didn't draw the stock up there. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We've got a functional hand, especially if we draw land number 3 and get to stock up. And then we're just missing Iron Man to set up our combo. Turn 1 Forest Pollinator, so Banter Mold deck. So sweepers are welcome, and we have an Explosion in hand already. Pollinator hits for 1. And no turn 2 play, so no need to sear. I will, however, stock up. And defend the Rider just to make a 1/1 here. Alright. That way the Pollinator can make a mana. So what do we like? Tablet's decent. Could go Tablet plus a lane so I can still Explosion next turn. Although stock up is also tempting when we still need to find one of our combo pieces. Although going stock up plus tablet's a little greedy, since then I wouldn't be able to Explosion next turn. So maybe it is stock up plus land. Sure. Opponent might have a second Defend the Rider in hand. But if they tap out for Ouroboros, at least we have an answer. An answer which might involve having to discard Genji Glove if I go for Explosion, or we could just Sear the Uroboroid, in which case keeping the tablet would have worked out better. I can still Sear, play Lantern, and sack it end of turn. You know, maybe we'll just play a longer game where we draw a second Genji Glove. And that'll work out fine. So then, a Lantern's still useful to shut down their Nature's Rhythm. So what don't I like? Don't really need Floodmaw, can just remove their creatures for good. Opponent now reading Genji Glove, can maybe piece things together. Did actually find Tony Stark, so yeah, just need to find a replacement Genji Glove now. Take another Explosion and a land. And then we can, end of turn, maybe Prismari Charm. Do want to keep up Sear for another Uroboroid. Critique's nice too. Can always Explosion just to draw 2. Sure. And then I'm gonna have to discard to hand size anyway. This is honestly also a matchup where I could get away with playing Tony Stark. The only downside is that it gets swept up by my own sweepers. Yeah, couple ways we can set this up. Maybe I do actually play it. I do suspect them to have another Defend the Rider, so it's possible that if they run out Uroboroids, Sear is not going to be a good enough answer, since they can make it indestructible. So, let's see here. Yeah, if I critique for 4, I won't have enough mana to then also Sear. So, yeah, could have gotten myself into a bit of trouble. Because, yeah, had I kept up 2 mana for Sear, they defend the Rider, then I untap, and then I likely get to critique to answer Uroboroid. Now, what's my plan? I could technically go Avengers Disassembled plus Pyroclasm, or I guess Pyroclasm plus Burst Lightning. They defend the Rider, then I let them untap and I Sear. So I guess that still works. Or a Kick Burst Lightning plus Sear could have done it too, but then I would not have been able to activate Tony Stark. Royal Treatment, alright, in that case I do want to respond. I could critique for 2, or I can just Sear and then still activate Tony. Opponent's got another Pollinator. So I could have also played the Lantern here. Okay, I mean, I can still transform Tony and then put the tablet into play for free and hit for 5. So there is some flexibility. Mill the Pyroclasm, which I can also cast. Or we can just stock up. Find a Genji Glove, and at this point a land is fine. Alright, so then we should have it next turn. Banter Mole is fine. They've got 1 card remaining. And it's a Crater Hoof. Yeah, that makes sense. But it's not quite going to be lethal, unfortunately, for the opponent. Still hits for 9. Yeah, that explains why they had a bit of a clunky draw. But yeah, can wipe the opponent's board if we want to, but keep it simple, put in Genji Glove. And smash for 20. So yeah, against decks where the opponent doesn't have any removal, we can consider playing Tony Stark first and maybe even getting value out of Iron Man, even if it's not quite lethal. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play with a keepable hand. Good mix of card draw, mana and interaction. And we can start with a tapped village for now. This makes red if we need to burst lightning on 2. Opponent also blue-red. Yeah. Can just get the lantern out there. And maybe draw end of turn. Doesn't seem like they're on a graveyard deck. Okay, found the Genji glove. So maybe stock up first, and then next turn I can make use of the tablet right away. And yeah, we found Tony plus a land, so we've got the combo. Can even make it uncounterable with Mistrise Village. So unless they have like a bounce spell or a 5 damage burn spell, we could be doing it. Opponents appears to be more of a spell elementals deck perhaps, so then an Eddie Merc Crab tapping down Iron Man could also be effective. But I think we're just going tablets into another stock up perhaps. If I want to play the land, I won't be able to stock up. Yeah, I think we can go without it. And then find another tablet's always useful. And maybe a critique. I mean, next turn I could already go for it. So if something bad happens, I guess we want the extra card draw to keep digging for another Tony Stark. Now a flow state with instant and sorcery. And blue mana could still represent interaction. Not enough for Eddie Merc Crab. Not enough mana for me to activate Mistrise Village. It is possible that they have some counterspell to stop Tony, but if I wait next turn, Eddie Merc Crab becomes a concern. So I think I still try it here. Iron Man resolves, but opponent's got a bounce off to bounce it. Alright. Fair enough. So now our opponent knows what's incoming. And now they've got enough to set up an Eddie Merc Crab as well. Namor was unexpected. Can make a bunch of merfolk. Yeah, I think we're off the Tony Stark plan for the time being. Want to make sure we control the board a bit and don't fall too far behind, because Namor can also block for what it's worth. So then, how do we feel about another tablet for starters? And then I can maybe critique for 4. Prismari Charm's decent too. So can Prismari Charm just to bounce Namor, and then if they replay it I can still kick a Burst Lightning? Sure. If they decide to just play an Eddie Merc Crab instead, then I would not have been able to finish it off with a Burst Lightning. Opponent has their own Prismari Charm to draw. So, yeah, we'll just pass a turn here. And then I can either critique or set up the Burst Lightning play we mentioned. Alright, opponent goes for a flow state. So I could Burst Lightning now in case they draw another instant to make another Merfolk. But I think we let them make the decision without the information that Namor might get answered here. And then now we can go for the Burst Lightning. If our opponent doesn't have another bounce off, they could die. But of course it is a pretty big mana commitment on my part to go for Tony Stark or Iron Man. So let's see, I can still go for another tablet first. It does force them to have the bounce off and they cannot Eddie Merc me right now. So maybe it's still worth going for. And then I guess I can still critique for 4 or for 3 afterwards if this doesn't work out. Sure. So far so good. We get to trigger, put in Genji glove, and looks like we might get there. Alright, so opponent had 1 bounce spell and then a flying creature that we managed to deal with pretty easily. Can even put the tablet into play here with a second attack. And there we go, awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a functional hand. Got some interaction, some card draw, and now one of our 2 combo pieces. So just gotta find our equipment now. Facing mono black with an Agents of Hydra, interesting. So, not in a hurry to Pyroclasm. Gonna save Tony Stark to play Iron Man instead. Okay, opponent's constructing a Cosmic Cube, so they're gonna try to draw cards to make more villains. So, the sweepers are gonna be useful. Good critique now, but I'll hang on to it. And then we can stock up. Find another stock up, and maybe the Iron Crag over Seer. We'll have to discard to hand size. 1 land can go. So if the next stock up finds our equipment, we could maybe win on turn 5. Yeah, can go Iron Crag into stock up. No equipment, but another stock up and a tablet for more card advantage. And now, yeah, Phyrexian Arena enables the construct a Cosmic Cube automatically. There we go, Genji Glove. Opponent does have 3 mana up, so if they have instant speed removal, we may not just win on the spot. Of course, the longer the game goes, the more cards they draw with Phyrexian Arena, the more likely they draw more answers. So it could be worth going for, but I'll take it a little slower. Play tablet, see what's up. Play a land, and then I could critique maybe one of the agents in the opponent's turn to then set up a Pyroclasm next turn. Sure. Opponent with a Corrupted Conviction, that makes a lot of sense to pair it with the Agents of Hydra and the Cube. So, don't want him to get to 7 counters or else we're in trouble. Opponent's got another Cube. And a Phyrexian Arena, so they're tapped out, so they are dead. So I can critique for 1 if I wanted to, which then also sets up my Pyroclasm nicely, but it's not gonna matter. Take 6. And then play Iron Man. Can also transform the Iron Crag for what it's worth. And then I guess it's 3 mana to equip, so can't quite do that. But that is a useful way to maybe get some more damage in if the opponent had some incidental life gain. You can get a lot of extra damage from an Iron Crag. So 10 damage with the first attack. Can put in a Soul Guide Lantern, I guess. And then 10 more damage with the second. So the opponent didn't necessarily know what they were up against, and they tapped out at the wrong time. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We've got a hand that just needs to draw a 3rd land, and then we're good to go. And the sweepers should keep me alive, so I don't get run over by aggro. Turn 1 island. Alright. No 3rd land just yet. And our opponent also blue-red. Alright. Another Pyroclasm, not looking great. But at least our opponent's not applying any meaningful pressure, so we might have time to draw out of it. They've got their own Prismari Charm. And they get out, so this is the Spelementals deck. Now stock up. Our opponent will have to discard to hand size, but that might help set up their Merc Crab. Another get out discarded. Actually a decent card in the matchup, since our goal is to eventually cast a creature spell, but we also have the Mistrise Village to make things uncounterable. Now we probably tablet, even though I'm not going to be able to play the milled card unless it's something like a Soul Guide Lantern, alright. Very relevant in the matchup, shrinking their graveyard so they cannot play their crab as easily. For now, I think I wait on exiling their graveyard. But especially if our opponent keeps up double blue and I'm about to combo, we can just force the issue by sacking the Lantern. And a Hearth Elemental, so just a 4/5 here while I haven't exiled their graveyard, sure. So I can answer it with an Avengers Disassembled plus Pyroclasm. I think I want to play another tablet first and hope to find a mana source. Then I won't be able to set up the double sweeper, and I also won't be able to stock up. Yeah, I think that's fine. Found a mountain, so now I will go for Avengers plus Pyroclasm, I think. Go after the cliffs. No harm in putting a land in their graveyard. Presumably they have an island. Okay, so we've established double tablet to make more mana. Now we can leverage the extra card advantage from stock up. Flow state's still missing the second type, only instants. That's fine. If they play a second one, it's probably time to sack the Lantern. Alright, opponent's gonna pass a turn. So let's go ahead and stock up. Still need to find both our combo pieces, find Tony, and Mistrise Village is an option. Or we can just go for another tablet, get more value. I think I actually go for Village, because it's also just an extra land drop which I can use. So then now we get to stock up again. And then we just need our Genji Glove, take stock up and a land. And then I could pass a turn, or I can cast another stock up. Something like a Spell Pierce could be a bit punishing. So I also don't hate just keeping up some more interaction here. Now let's try it. If they Spell Pierce me, so be it. And then Seer doesn't quite deal with their elementals, so may as well Flood Maw and Tablets. Okay, so yeah, we're setting up, digging through the deck. Not in any danger of dying. Opponent did have another Prismari Charm. So, should I sack the Lantern already? They've got a pretty full graveyard, so I think I will actually go for it. Make it harder for them to play the crab. Flow state doesn't draw 2 cards. Opponent's gonna start rebuilding their graveyard with a sleight of hand. So, yeah. If we get lucky and draw the Genji Glove, we could just win, and our opponent will be tapped out of blue mana, which is most likely the color that represents interaction, like a Get Out, or another Prismari Charm to bounce my creature. So they're struggling to hit their land drops here, it seems. Okay, so my only card draw is Explosion or Tablet. If I cast the Explosion, can I still combo if I draw Genji Glove? Let's see, 4, 5. Can use 3 mana from Tablet, so I'll be 1 short. So in that case, I'll start with a Tablet. Avengers Disassembled could be worth casting, but I'll start with an Explosion. Just to draw 2. Find Prismari Charm. So I don't think I'm gonna Avengers Disassembled. Maybe go after the island, Hope they don't have another. I think I just keep up my mana. Put on now with the third island and a Hearth Elemental. Okay, 2 mana left. So still gonna Prismari Charm to go digging. We've seen a good chunk of our deck. Another Mistrise Village. And there's a glove. So unless they have their own Prismari Charm, this could be lethal. Don't think I need to use Mistrise Village, because Get Out is double blue. So I don't expect him to have a different counterspell. So sure. Let's try this. And go to attackers, put in Genji Glove, equip. Now our opponent is actually at 21, since they gained one off a Swiftwater Cliffs. So this isn't quite lethal. We'll still need a Critique or a Burst Lightning to finish them off. Or just have this combo survive for another turn. The only drawback of Floodmaw is that I cannot bounce my own creature with it to maybe save Iron Man. But yeah, pass a turn. If they want to play Thunderflock, that's fine by me. Could have also bounced the Hearth Elemental beforehand. But if they commit a bunch of blue mana to playing Thunderflock, then I can also just bounce it and then replay Iron Man next turn. So Hearth Elemental gets in for 4. And we get to untap, so presumably they've got an answer. Okay, so go to attackers. And then see what happens. Opponent does have the crab now. Makes sense. Although, hold on, I don't think we're in the beginning of combat yet. Because if I'm still in my main phase, I can just play another Iron Man and move the Genji Glove to still attack for lethal, which may be worth it here. So if our opponent wanted to play around this, they should have maybe played the crab at the point where the Iron Man trigger goes on the stack, because then we're already in the beginning of combat, so then I would not have had the opportunity to play a second copy. But yeah, there we go. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand is not particularly exciting, missing blue mana and Genji Glove. Do have some okay removal, but no card draw, so I think we can do better. Now I've got blue mana, no red, Genji Glove, no Iron Man, but I'll keep. So then probably need the Lantern to just draw a card. And yeah, I think Prismari Charm is going to be drawing as well. Even though I cannot cast it, if we don't find red mana, we're also not going to win the game. Alright, so I've got the combo all rolled up now. Against Blood Crypt, you could make the argument that we should hold the Lantern, because it could be like a Dinosaur Reanimator deck, or it's maybe worth holding this. They are Grixis instead, so tends to be more controlling, so they will have answers to creatures, but if they're unfamiliar with the matchup, they might tap out at the wrong time. So, with Ironcrag, we could already win on turn 5. Opponent's consulting. Yeah, if they have cards like Consult, they'll have a bunch more instant speed interaction, so they're unlikely to tap out. It is a 4-color deck, so they likely have the inevitable defeat as well. Avengers Disassembled, if I can cast it, could be pretty effective at disrupting their mana. But yeah, somehow drew another Ironcrag, no red mana yet, so this game's not going to plan. And there's no way Tony Stark survives, so not even gonna bother. So, if we draw the right pieces, it's still doable. Especially if our opponent taps out at the wrong time, but yeah, this isn't gonna do it. Opponent likely has a defeat, but is unwilling to use it on an Ironcrag. Stock Up is likely to get countered, but we gotta try. Right, just a kicked Consult. So I can find my red mana Probably ×2. I guess the reason to take Burst Lightning is that our opponent's going to gain life of their inevitable defeat. So I may need extra burn to close out the game. But I think I just want to be able to cast my spells here. So I can Prismari Charm end of turn. Opponent now on 6 mana. At 7, they could have a Revelation as well. Just an explosion. Well, if they don't have a removal spell up, I could just win next turn. They could have a Shoot the Sheriff for all we know. Critique isn't bad since it's also a burn spell. But at this point, I guess a Lightning Helix could gain them 3. I think I'll keep Critique. Not gonna keep the land. And yeah, I'll try and go for it. Opponent discards Swamp to hand size. Well, let's see what you've got. Iron Crag. I'm not gonna transform. And wow, it looks like we're actually gonna go the distance here. Opponent doesn't seem to have any interaction. So yeah, it goes to show that you can certainly catch people off guard with this deck, especially while it's brand new. As soon as people start catching on and keep up their interaction for Iron Man, your win percentage is probably going to start dropping. But yeah, for now you can get some free wins. So yeah, we got to see this Iron Man combo in action, and I was quite impressed. It is certainly a deck that benefits from being new and people not knowing how to play against it yet. Once people start catching on and they know what you're up to, they'll start leaving up more instant speed interaction that can potentially disrupt the combo, and then you might have to adjust the deck slightly to include some counter spells or other protection effects to still get the combo through, or it might be time to just switch to a different deck. But yeah, it's a pretty nice playstyle in my opinion. Getting to play a control role with a combo finish gets the game over with pretty quickly, but you can still play a longer game if needed. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.